So, some of you may have noticed that the first video I uploaded here in regards to my first few weeks with 3D printing and model making has been removed. It was not voluntarily, since that first video was doing exceptionally well for a channel with so few subscribers. The video in question was removed due to a copyright claim which led to it being entirely delisted and a copyright strike being applied to the channel itself. Luckily, there was only one video to strike, so I did not accumulate enough copyright strikes to risk the entire channel being terminated. The video itself was an overview of my first few weeks with a Bambu A1 FDM printer, as well as some of my experiments with designing the models to print, specifically using Games Workshop's Space Marines as a template for model design strategies, much like many artists would study other art to understand it better. The video itself explicitly mentions that those models are not intended for public release and certainly not for sale, only as internal references and learning, which I showed to the audience, much like anybody else creating fan art of something might do. I suspect that rather than the actual content of the video, it was simply the title which contained the words 40K, Bambu A1 and print, which clearly could point towards 3D printing Games Workshop models. Although it was, like every other video, a strategic use of keywords. In regards to the copyright claim itself, the parties involved are a little confusing. Games Workshop are the ones who you would expect to own the copyright to these things, but the claim was made by another group called MarkScan, who actually cite Games Workshop as the owners of the copyright. So Games Workshop was definitely not acting directly to take down this video, but MarkScan seems to say that they did it on behalf of Games Workshop. MarkScan appears to be a company based in India, looking at their LinkedIn and the domain address of their website, although the website has a partial presence with a .co.uk domain address too. The website itself looks very shallow and does not seem to actually do anything except present an illusion that MarkScan is a functioning company. There is no actual proof of work over time, no client references, nothing you would expect to see from a company who supposedly employs 150 people since 2014. I sent an email to the provided address requesting clarification as to what exactly the copyright strike was in reference to, but to this point there has been no reply from them. You would expect that a company of 150 people would actually monitor their email inbox. If we dig a little deeper into MarkScan's online presence overall, most of the references to them are complaints about copyright claims on content they don't actually directly own. This message on Reddit from a year ago paints a very interesting picture of MarkScan as a proxy agent used by other companies to remove content that they don't like.
I'm in danger!
So it does seem that Games Workshop itself is not doing these takedowns. But the question is, are MarkScan acting entirely independently or on behalf of Games Workshop? If MarkScan are acting entirely on their own merit, then they are claiming content that they do not seem to own the rights to. But the question there would be, for what purpose? If they entirely remove a video, then any further ad revenue is not going to be generated and funneled to them, as could happen in a usual copyright claim that allows the video to remain. In my case, there was no ad revenue at all, since my channel is not yet monetized, so they wouldn't even have been able to claim prior ad revenue to the takedown. It could perhaps have been testing or proving technology, but since the website does not actually show any work history or proof, that seems unlikely. So the angle that most things seem to point towards, although it is certainly not certain, is that MarkScan are doing this on behalf of Games Workshop as a third-party proxy agent. If we assume that this is the case, then why are only some videos that talk about 3D printing and Games Workshop content targeted, while others seem to survive? The models in my video, whilst certainly derivative of Games Workshop's Space Marines, were completely created by me aside from the aesthetic direction. I was not scanning or recreating existing products and distributing them or trying to profit from that. Propane Prod was a channel that has been hit, and enough of his videos were struck that he met the criteria for channel termination. From the few videos of his that I saw, his content was much riskier, in my opinion, in regards to 3D printing Games Workshop products. Multiple videos discussed how to print specific models from the Games Workshop catalogue. However, he too did not seem to be actually distributing or gaining monetarily directly from these products. He was simply talking about them. Painted for Combat is another channel who seems to have had a few videos discussing FDM printing 40k designs, which are now absent. But the channel itself still seems to be alive. So the theme seems to be quite consistent: 3D printing and Games Workshop products. Although the actual fallout doesn't seem to have hit everybody equally, as many videos still exist on that idea. With the recent DMCA strike on Tabletop Simulator and the history of Games Workshop in regards to aggressively guarding copyright, it's quite easy to see a picture take form. But can I conclusively say that Games Workshop is using a proxy agent to quietly remove content that they feel competes with them? No, not conclusively. But the picture is certainly interesting. I am considering contesting the copyright strike to try and restore the video, which I suspect would be successful considering the lack of response from MarkScan before. But the risk is, if that video was restored, who is to say that it would not be immediately struck again? Needless to say, I will be avoiding discussing 40k alongside 3D printing in the future. But that was never the aim of the channel in the first place. I have my own ideas to design and discuss, so we'll be back on those soon. Until then, bye.